And we have one more, well, maybe a couple more speakers, but this next one I get to introduce. And his name is Daniel Santos, and he's a graduate of Willamette University College of Law, and he returned to that school in 2011, where he was an associate dean for student affairs and the administration. Previously, Danny Santos spent 24 years, you don't look that old, but he spent 24 years in service to 4 Oregon governors, including, and I know she's here tonight, I remember her from last year, our very own Governor Roberts. Would you welcome to the podium Mr. Danny Santos?
Thank you all for being here, and one of the things I'd love to say is that Governor Roberts was not only my boss, but she was a dear friend of mine. But to tell you the bad legal counsel she got from me as her lawyer was, we both love baseball, and she was going to a Little League game with her granddaughter, and I said, let's go. I said, I'll tell you what, Governor, I'll pay for the entrance, you pay for the hot dogs. And she said, okay, deal. But bad legal counsel because the game is for free. But nonetheless, she let me stay on as her legal counsel. Now, as was mentioned, we had the honor last year of having Governor Roberts here as the recipient of the Literacy Trailblazer Award. She's actually a descendant of Trailblazers, the Oregon Trail, and has a lifelong passion for education and literacy. Now, those of you who were here last year heard of her story as a single parent of a son with special needs, and her successful lobbying to pass a law in Oregon in 1971 to give public education rights to those children with special needs. And this was long before the Federal Act of Special Education was passed. She continued her passion for education by becoming a school board member at Park Rose School District, Mountain Hood Community College, and then she was elected to the State House as a representative, Secretary of State, and became the first female governor of the state of Oregon. As governor, she continued to increase these services, educational services for children through Head Start programs, and also moved adult Oregonians toward an upward mobility in the workplace. After leaving office, she served again in educational roles at the JFK School of Government at Harvard, and then taught at Portland State University. Her passion continues today, including helping many adults, many workers with housing and educational opportunities, and she's a longtime friend of the Mid-Valley Literacy Center. Governor Roberts has graciously agreed to return today to introduce this year's recipient, but please join me in welcoming Governor Barbara Roberts.
I talk with my hands, so it's very difficult for me to work with a handheld mic, but I will do my best. Thank you very much, Danny, for the nice introduction. I'm still paying off those damn hot dogs. Good evening. I am so pleased to be back with the Mid-Valley Literacy Center and its many fans and its many, many supporters. This is the 5th spotlight on literacy, and again this year it is a wonderful opportunity to celebrate the past year's work and accomplishments, and to, of course, hear the inspiring stories of the amazing progress made by your students. What an uplifting evening this is each and every year. And speaking of inspiring and uplifting, I have now been given the honor to introduce someone whose life has been a story of inspiration and of lifting up others on the road to opportunity. That person is Susan Castillo, this year's Literacy Trailblazer Award winner. Now, I have to tell you, Susan is indeed a trailblazer. Her grandparents were first-generation immigrants from Mexico. Her father was a deputy sheriff. Her mother was a factory worker with an 8th grade education. And Susan's mother cautioned Susan and her brothers that education mattered. She told her children that it was better to earn your living with your brains rather than your backs. And Susan remembered that lesson. Yet while Susan was a student in the Los Angeles school system, no one ever talked to her about college. Was it because she was a Latina? Was it because she was a female? Nobody ever talked to her about college. After high school, she tried community college but dropped out after just a short while. In her mid-20s, Susan moved to Oregon and took a job as a secretary. But she took a job as a secretary working for Oregon State University's Affirmative Action Director. Now, you can't know unless you know this director what a great break this was for Susan. The female director became a mentor to Susan and encouraged her to return to school. And that's exactly what Susan did. In 1981, Susan graduated from Oregon State University with a degree in communications. And it was about that time that I first saw Susan. Now, I don't mean it's the first time I met her, it was the first time I saw her. She was delivering the news on KVAL-TV in Eugene, and I saw her. The first time I had, maybe only the first or second time I'd ever seen a newscaster who was a female. Back in the early 80s, you did not see women delivering the news. They might have been the weather girl, but they weren't delivering the news. And that's exactly what Susan was doing. And not only was she a female extraordinary in that work sense, but she was also a Latina. I was a state representative at the time, and I took a serious note of this articulate, poised young woman delivering the news. And I sensed that I would see more from her at some point in time, and I did. By the time I had completed my 6 years as Oregon Secretary of State and my 4 years as Oregon Governor, and then I went off to Boston in early 1995 to join the staff at the Kennedy School of Government at Harvard. So I began getting letters from home. I had people who clipped newspapers and sent me everything that was happening so I could keep up while I was clear across the country. And I began hearing Susan's name in letters from home, letters from Oregon. In January of 1997, Susan Castillo became the first Latina to serve in the Oregon legislature in its entire history. And you can applaud that. Between 1997 and 2002, while serving as a state senator, she sponsored legislation on farm worker and immigrant rights, on voter registration opportunities, on tracking what and where pesticides came from and went to, and she served on the Oregon Commission on Hispanic Affairs and the Governor's Advisory on Agricultural Labor. She never forgot where she came from. Soon after I returned from Boston, Susan was elected statewide as Superintendent of Public Instruction. She was the first Latina elected to statewide office in Oregon's history, and that is again worth a little applause. She held that office through 3 successful elections and in 10 and a half years until the position was eliminated by the legislature. Susan was a strong advocate every day for students of color and low-income children. She fought for Head Start and for full-day kindergartens and for English as a second language. She made graduation rates a high priority for every single student. And she never forgot what she learned from her mother about the importance of education. When Susan left her role as superintendent of public instruction, she did not leave the field of teaching and learning. She joined the nonprofit organization Project Lead the Way that specializes in learning experiences for both students and teachers across the United States. She never forgot her mother's lesson about the opportunities education brings for a better life. And additionally, she never forgot her people. So many Oregonians, in return, never forgot Susan Castillo. Her service in public office was about honesty, about ethics, about hard work, about fairness, about equal opportunity. As Oregon's first statewide elected Hispanic office holder, she was and still is a role model for women's leadership. I am thrilled to introduce this year's literacy trailblazer, the Honorable Susan Castillo.
Governor, my heart's pounding with those words. Thank you so much. That was such a gracious introduction. My goodness. I wish my mom was here and could have heard it. She's still with us. She's 90 years old. She lives in the LA area and she's doing really well. Well, thank you. And thank you for this wonderful, oh, can you hear me now? Thank you for this wonderful honor tonight. I am just really quite taken, especially because of the work that you do. The focus on literacy, it is at the core of everything, which is what you totally understand, and is why you're so focused and passionate about making progress and helping so many people improve their literacy skills. You know, so often our passions do come from our own personal experiences in our lives. And so for me, as you heard the story about my mother, you know, throughout, I just grew up with my mother always lamenting about not having her education. And she would be embarrassed about it. You know, she would be reluctant sometimes to meet new people because she felt like her language wasn't where it should be, or, you know, she didn't write much. She didn't ever write a letter to anyone or a note to anyone because she didn't feel like she could really write very well. And so my mother's, her potential, you know, was very limited in terms, and I just think about my mother's wonderful potential because she's an amazing woman. She's so strong, and she's just really quite amazing and has accomplished quite a lot, really, and serves as a wonderful role model for me and my brothers and the rest of our family. But her, yeah, she had that passion to me and my brothers always, you know, get your education, and it just was really driven into us. And so for me, every day, I saw every single day that very real connection between education and opportunity. And when you don't have your education and opportunities come your way, you're not prepared to grab onto them or to go after them. And just saw that, you know, with my mother. And so I always knew that I wanted to pursue education, but I struggled with learning as I was growing up. For I don't know what reasons, but I did. until I was older, and then I was just ready to grab on and really learn, and I became like a sponge, and I loved it when I went back to school at Oregon State University, just absolutely loved it. And every day I embrace learning. I love learning. I loved my job as a reporter because every single day I was out learning new things and meeting new people and experiencing other people's lives, you know, through their stories, and I just learned so much doing that. And then working in the legislature, working on public policy, and getting to meet amazing women like Governor Roberts and other women leaders. And tomorrow there will be a memorial for Norma Paulus in our state. And I remember when I first met her and thinking, wow, look at what this woman is doing in our state. And just other amazing leaders that I had an opportunity to learn from. And so for me, every day, I just really do enjoy what I can learn and put to use from my learning, what I can do with that learning, what difference can I make with that learning. So I come back to that, you know, our passions are very much what we experience. I come from that our own personal experience. Well, when I was state superintendent, I came to the job at the very same time that this huge federal mandate for all states called No Child Left Behind was starting to be implemented. And while there were many challenges with that, there were also some other really good things about it because it helped us all be very, very focused on every student. And one of the things that came with that mandate, it wasn't nearly enough money, but it was a lot of money, was to be focused on literacy, which was fabulous. So we had an opportunity then to take those dollars, bring literacy experts together from around the state, create an advisory team that could help us make good decisions about what we were going to be doing with those funds and how we were going to be giving grants to schools to really focus on literacy for all children. And we really did make progress with those dollars. They really did help. And our schools worked incredibly hard. That the requirements that came with those dollars were very rigorous. So schools that did get those grants, they worked so hard. So what we did, we made sure that as those schools made progress, that we celebrated them. We celebrated their progress, and we looked at their data, and we created this really wonderful event called the Celebrating Student Success Event. And I would go out and raise about $80,000 from the private sector, and we would put on a beautiful banquet dinner up in Portland, and we would invite these schools that were making incredible progress with their children, and we would celebrate them, and we would treat them to this amazing dinner, and it was a celebration, and we had videos produced. My husband would help lead the work on the videos that we did during that time, and he was working for a television station that really contributed a lot of resources to help make those videos so that we could do those for those schools, and we would capture their work and show their work in this huge wonderful screen that everyone could see and celebrate them and their schools. And I think that was really, really important. I can't tell you, after those events, those teachers and administrators would say, you know, so many times to me over the years, how important it was that we celebrated their progress, because the work was so hard. And, you know, so often we get bogged down in looking at what's wrong and what we need to, you know, we're not good enough yet, or we haven't gotten there yet, or we set this goal and we haven't made our goal yet. And that's good, because we do need to look at that data, and we do need to be real about where we are and where we need to be. But we also need to celebrate the success that we make along the way. And that really helps people be able to make even more success. And so we really got that, and it was wonderful. So I loved that, and it was all about focusing on literacy as well, and the data about how our children were doing with literacy. And then for the last 6 years, as the governor stated, I was working for a national nonprofit on STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and math. And what I really learned a lot about in that work, I was working across the country on a national level, and served as the vice president for the West region of the country. So I worked in the 12 Western states. and worked with schools, with university partners, and with business partners who wanted to get involved in helping schools make more progress in this area. And this program was about students actively learning. So they were always actively involved and engaged in problem solving and making things and creating things and thinking creatively. And what I really saw happen for students in that kind of learning environment, and with teachers being facilitators of all of that, was that all along the way, students were improving in their literacy skills and in their math skills, and they were having so much fun doing it, they didn't even realize that they were learning math or science, or that they were improving on their communication skills or their writing skills. And it was that active learning environment and making it relevant, so they were solving real world problems and really felt like they were contributing. It was fabulous. It was amazing. And so I learned a lot doing that work as well, and I loved it. And now I've been retired for about a year, and I have a beautiful garden that my husband and I just love. We created this wonderful garden in our little house in Eugene, and I'm learning a lot about gardening and plants and the growth there, and there's so much to learn, and it's very exciting and wonderful, and I'm just really getting into sort of this whole transition time of that work life that was so busy and big to now just being more contemplative and focusing on my garden, and I started doing some yoga, and so we'll see where the next steps lead me, but right now I'm in a really good place, just enjoying that in my garden in Eugene, and my wonderful husband, and we're having a nice time together in Eugene, and I just, continue to get involved. I'm doing some volunteer work with the American Leadership Forum, doing some work with, a little bit of work with them. But I just, once again, just come back to literacy with what we're focused on tonight and what you focus on every day. It is at the center of everything, the core of everything, in whatever career you want to do. Really, whatever you want to pursue in life, it comes back to literacy, and it is just at the core of everything. And so, thank you for what you do. It's absolutely essential for every single person. Thank you.
We need to give you this. It's glass, but I don't want to take it out.
Oh my gosh, that's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's gorgeous.
Thank you. And thank you for all the work that you have done
Thank you.
in education. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Susan. Could we have the lights back up again? Is that okay if is that all right if we turn the lights back up? Thank you. There are two more awards that we want to give tonight. Folks that have helped us a great deal, and we're just very thankful. One of them, I would like to thank Kevin Mannix. I'm going to tell you a little bit about him. Let's give him a hand. Kevin, will you stand up? Come here. Kevin Mannix has been an attorney since 1974. In January of 1986, he opened his own law firm here in Salem, where he and his staff handle legal affairs for businesses. Kevin served 5 terms, that's a total of 10 years, in the Oregon House of Representatives. Kevin also served a partial term in the Oregon Senate, filling out a term by appointment. During his legislative service, Kevin was the chief sponsor of more successful legislation, a total of 135 bills, than any other single legislator in the last 50 years. Kevin has been active in many civic organizations. Since 1984, Kevin has been on the board of directors for the Salem Catholic Schools Foundation. He's currently president of that foundation. He also serves as the president of the Blanchette Community Foundation, which has graciously helped the Mid-Valley Literacy Center since February of 2016, when we moved into the East Salem Community Center. Thank you, Kevin. And we'd like to give you this plaque as an honor to what you have done. Get it open.
This is a great way to soften up your landlord. Let me hold this up. I can hold it there, yes.
Thank you, Kevin. You sure may.
I'd like to mention something about the East Salem Community Center. We've got a 13-acre campus, and we designed it to host nonprofit organizations which serve the community. We're very proud to have the Mid-Valley Literacy Center as one of our tenants. We try to keep the rent low so that you can provide services. We also have the Community Action Agency. We have Head Start, Catholic Community Services. The Oasis Community Church uses the facility. St. Joseph Church uses the facility. And we also provide a field space for the community. And it's also a low-cost facility for folks who are celebrating. The quinceañeras and other events. So we are a nonprofit. We're not a government institution, but we operate and to serve the community, and truly having the Mid-Valley Literacy Center come on board, as far as we were concerned, is a feather in our cap because it's helping us fulfill our mission of helping the community. So thank you, and God bless you for your work.
Thank you, Kevin. We do have one more award, and that would go to Mary Kruger. Mary, would you please come here? Mary has been one of our most faithful and dedicated tutors. She is the site coordinator of the Staten United Methodist Church group that's part of our program. And Mary has also been working with our program for long before I started the Mid-Valley Literacy Center when I was still with Chemeketa Community College. She was the coordinator over there then. And we want to say thank you, Mary, for the 10 years of service. She's been with us the entire time, and she's the only tutor that has been, and we want to say thank you.
It's an honor, and it's an honor to work with Vivian and to everybody at the Mid-Valley Literacy Center. They're a great support to us out in Staten. I have to say, I've known Vivian for a long time. I've been doing this for 21 years. Started in Staten just working one-on-one with tutoring people. And have gone through the whole gamut, and I love it. And everybody I tutor in Staten, almost everybody I tutor in Staten knows Vivian. They get ready to do a citizenship application. I say, you need to go talk to Vivian and make sure everything's right. Oh yeah, Vivian, I know Vivian. They all know me.
This is for you. Thank you, Mary. Thank you.
I'm going to continue.
Thank you, Mary.